See. I will call this meeting to order of the Berlin Plan Commission meeting, March 24th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Burgess.
Here.
Hammond.
Here.
Kubiak.
Here.
Driscoll.
Here.
And Reeves. Okay, we have quorum.
Okay, we have no public comments. Number 3. Number 4, I will, is the approval of the minutes of the Plan Commission meeting minutes from February 17th, 2026, that's supposed to be.
I'll approve the meeting minutes. I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is a comprehensive plan update, presentation of the third set of elements and final report style of the first and second elements. Recommendation is discussion, including the next steps and action as appropriate, which may include planning feedback to occur between this meeting and next. Morgan.
Thank you. Okay, hello everybody. Nice to be back. I hope you all are doing well. Lots of content coming your way today, so I want to kind of take it all piece by piece. I want to start off by saying that I have had a couple comments about, I just want to briefly touch on the economic development, the major employers chapter, which is page 31. I am working on figuring out why the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development has different names for businesses than are listed on the businesses itself, like saying Clay Lamberton Elementary School, and then I went to the link, it was Berlin Area School District, so I'm gonna work on fixing that to make sure that it's the names that the people will understand, but just wanted to start off by saying I'm working on adjusting those. But the most important thing that I want to discuss today is the land use chapter. This will have the biggest this is really one of the most critical points of a comprehensive plan because this impacts future planning development that is going to happen here. And so I want to make sure that, I don't remember, but who all has been through a comprehensive plan update before? Gary, all now? You have? Okay, so maybe you remember a little bit from the last time the comprehensive plan was updated. You know that obviously these maps are not necessarily, they don't have to be set in stone, but we want to make sure that the choices that we make here are thoughtfully done and can offer you all as best guidance for when applications come up, properties are being discussed, changes are looking to be made. So, okay, the hard thing is that I want you guys to be able to see the map, but I also want to talk into the mic. So is there a microphone closer to?
There's, so the mic though, like if you're worried about YouTube hearing, the mic is coming off of the owl.
Okay, I want to make sure they can hear me, but I also want to look at the map. So
You can hear just fine because that owl can pick everything up.
okay,
So you're fine.
as long as they can hear me, that's
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start with the existing land use map. We did a complete overhaul of the previous land use map because we noticed like a couple inconsistencies with what was on the ground in the city. So, for example, there was like a portion that was mostly residential that was labeled neighborhood mixed use, and some kind of redundancies in categories. So this is broken down really simply. It's different than a zoning map. It's just looking at existing what is on a site. So a site might be legally non-conforming, so that means it wouldn't match its zoning code, but it would still match the existing land use map. Sorry if that gets confusing. Please feel free to ask clarifying questions. This is the most confusing part of the comprehensive plan at times. So we do the entire planning area because that's required by state statute for comprehensive planning, but also we understand that decisions that are made outside of the boundaries of Berlin might be completely outside of your jurisdiction, but we have to plan for the entire region itself because in the possibility of a property being annexed or changes in municipal boundaries in the next 20 years, we have to allow for that possibility in the planning process, even if it doesn't happen. So what we've done here is our best estimation. We used zoning maps, street view, looked at all the parcels on the city viewer, and tried our best to create an accurate picture of what is currently happening as far as different areas in the city. If you're looking at this existing land use map and you notice inconsistencies with what you know to be in a certain area, please let us know. We're working on a large scale, so there is the possibility that not all of this is exactly right, but we did try our best to make sure that we were thoughtful about identifying each parcel. But yes, feedback on this map, still welcome, encouraged if you have any. Does anyone have questions right now about the existing land use map before I move to talk about the future land use map? Okay, future land use map, let me grab my notes. Okay. So the future land use map, you'll notice, is a little bit different than the existing land use map because we're trying to make decisions about the future or create guidance for the future in a way that makes sense with the existing zoning code and the existing land use. So I'm gonna walk through the different areas. We have the neighborhood residential area, and so for each of these areas, we basically outlined what the density of the general category is. But I want to give an example. So if a property is zoned R1 single family and they exist in neighborhood residential, if they were to want to build a duplex per se, they would have to apply for a zoning amendment, but they wouldn't have to apply for an amendment to the comprehensive plan land use map in this scenario. So it removes a step of complication in the process while also still regulating where that would be appropriate. So for example, in that duplex scenario, we have in our neighborhood residential category specific areas where it would be more or less appropriate for a duplex in an area that's largely single family. And we've kept it quite conservative because it is a very low density community, and we expect that to most likely be the case looking forward to the next 20 years. So we've tried to be really thoughtful about the scenarios where that would not be the case. And so for the high intensity residential overlay, you can see here in Berlin, high density just means more than 5 units. So that is high density because there's so few multifamily properties in the city. So we're trying to be really mindful of that, looking at the future, but definitely welcome, your feedback on both. And we've tried to kind of be thoughtful about locations, and if there was the potential for a future location, what would be the standards that would make sense for it to be appropriate in the area. And so that's a big part of this, is identifying where certain densities, certain types of housing or other uses is appropriate. So for downtown mixed use, you'll see that the area that is considered downtown mixed use, we went slightly wider than the existing downtown area. But that's not to say that any residential property that exists adjacent to downtown, they don't have to change anything. If they're gonna be a residential property, there's no change that's required. But that is to say that if a property wanted to sell and become something else, they couldn't just then say, oh, we're gonna be an industrial building, If they were to say, oh, we wanna redevelop this residential property, it would have to be in line with the existing downtown corridor to make sense. And so that's the reason why we make decisions like that. So I don't want to scare anyone and say, oh, if your house is here, you don't have to become a mixed-use commercial building. But it's saying, okay, if someone was to choose to change their use, it should be in line with what's already in that corridor. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So I also want to touch on this. So commercial, that's pretty standard, like the Walmart area, and that's, areas where we see kind of potential businesses. And then employment is basically, we've chosen a lot of the sectors that are kind of existing industrial, but the expectation is potentially moving away from industrial uses, but might not be hospitable to residential uses. So employment would basically be businesses that are not like, they're not super incompatible with residential uses, but they're specifically focused on having like a workforce. So that would be like a set of office buildings would fall under it, or something that would be considered like light manufacturing. So like a t-shirt printing press or like something like that, where it's not like an environmental concern, but you wouldn't necessarily, but you would want them to more or less cluster together and not be plopped in the middle of a neighborhood, So that's like the employment category that we've done. We've left a couple industrial parcels just based on conversations that we've had about what is potential for the future of these properties, is that it would be very difficult to redevelop them into anything else right now. But if there is strong feelings about whether or not, like, I'm open to discussion. This is just our kind of initial thoughts looking through the land use categories. Parks, recreation, and open space, that's pretty standard. That's, the areas that are parks or undevelopable. Wetlands that are going to continue to be wetlands, so like along the river and the existing parks. The public and institutional, that would be your schools, and municipal buildings, like this building would be considered institutional. And then we have this urban reserve category. And so that is the areas on the outskirts of the city boundaries that are not currently developed. And the expectation is that they probably won't end up becoming developed in the next 20 years. But if they were to become developed, the expectation is that they should submit a plan to the city so that it's done so thoughtfully and goes through an approval process. And that's kind of to give a little bit more control to the city to say, okay, like the boundaries of the development, like you don't want to do leapfrog development, which is basically when you have undeveloped area and then development happens a big jump away, and then all those lines of utilities end up having to skirt area and end up in a different spot. So we've just put those at the edges of the boundaries. And rural lands is basically the equivalent, but outside of the boundaries. So there wouldn't be that municipal control, but the expectation is that it will largely stay extremely low density or undeveloped entirely. And that includes the pockets of, we know that there's like a farmland here, a small house here, but that doesn't impact the categorization as rural lands for our uses. And then the last thing is the natural resources overlay. And that is any area that falls within those like floodplain boundaries that we kind of regulate. And that basically supersedes the land use category. So we just put that as a blanket over top of anything. And so like I was talking to Tim about earlier, like this area is employment, but there's certain pockets of this area that fall under the natural resources overlay. So here I can read you what we have here. So that's at the end, page 16 of the land use. And that
16 in which,
in the land use chapter draft. So that's like the Word doc, not the fancy doc. And so this is areas that are vital to the ecosystem and should be limited based on local, county, state, or federal environmental regulations. So that's saying, okay, development in these areas is limited to what is legally allowed by the municipality, by the county, by the state, as far as regulations go on environmentally sensitive lands. So that was a ton of information, but I think if you guys have questions, I'd love questions, but also I would love if you all read these categories and really thought about if they make sense to you. If you have any questions, looking for feedback as far as each of the categories go. Yeah, sorry, so much information. Hopefully any questions or thoughts just kind of on the initial?
I have a question because it would concern my property.
Yeah,
On the residential, I have a non-standard lot, and I'm sure there's plenty of those that are.
yeah, so like a double lot or a unique size or legal
Yeah, I
non-conforming in
literally
some
have
way?
a half a lot.
Okay, yes,
So if my house burned down,
yeah.
would I be able to rebuild it?
So the reality is that the zoning restrictions would be the thing that you would have to comply with. The land use, this map wouldn't change your legal abilities for what you could build on your property, but the zoning code would. And so the zoning code has regulations regarding the setbacks and the structures. And so the answer is that this wouldn't change it at all, but I'm not sure exactly what the scenario would be for your property. I don't know, Tim, do you have any thoughts on
I'd
that?
have to review the non-conforming chapter, that's what would probably
Yeah,
apply there.
Because I just think, when I drive around town, you see all these funky sized lots.
yeah. That happens a lot. I mean, zoning code changes over time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a commission, we may, at some point in the future, look at, seeing how the alignment of what is in our zoning code. I mean, if we have a lot size that doesn't reflect the reality, but.
And we just started to make those
Yeah.
changes,
Yeah,
so
we-
I could see that
We've been
coming
doing
up.
that piece by piece, and that's the.
Yeah, because like the neighborhood, my house, first part of it
And
was
yours-
in 1867.
I think-
Things were a lot different then.
Yeah.
Isn't your street also a historic district? I know there's an overlay for special exceptions for rebuilding historic buildings in town. I'd have to, again, look more into that, but.
Yeah, this would impact more if there was a subdivision development and they were choosing their lot sizes versus a scenario like yours where you've got a historic lot size that doesn't match what the existing code would be regulating for.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely under.
I guess my only concern was because I see so many of them here.
I hear questions that is a common scenario that I've seen, as a person that I also do zoning administration, so I definitely understand the question and
Okay.
it's fair, but yeah, this wouldn't impact that at all.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that we also talked about, as far as standards go that maybe is interesting for the downtown mixed use one. One thing I notice is that on the west side of the river is more of the newer, the Quick Trip and the Taco Bell and stuff. And one thing that we kind of thought to add in was making sure that if those sorts of developments happen, to kind of cluster them towards that side versus infringing on the existing more historic side. Yeah.
Like at East River and West River.
Yes. Yeah. Which is just kind of naturally formed.
Which is also, that's where the names come in too, that's where the roads switch, is
Yeah.
at the river. So
Yeah.
it makes sense, but.
Yeah, for sure. And another area that, I'd like to maybe get you guys' thoughts on is this existing industrial area right now. Because if you look here, basically right now you've got an industrial area that is touching a residential area, which is pretty big no-no in terms of just compatibility standards. So trying to think about the future, our thought is what would make the most sense, just in our thoughts, but welcome your feedback, of course, is moving this area away from any industrialization that would be negative or harmful to neighboring residential, but leaving the potential open that this can continue to be residential.
So what area?
The South Industrial.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what's right there.
Yeah.
No,
mean, that would be
No,
where
that would be like,
BP and stuff is.
yeah, not AIS, that would be more the spice factor type.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any thoughts on this area? Has this come up at all?
I want to pull up our GIS instead, or not the cities, the counties.
Yes.
I want to see,
Yeah, please.
You have some like, well, you have the spice company in that area.
hey Jesse.
You have, well, there was BP, we
Is there
just did that,
an
one
apple
building
remote?
that was commercial, we made it residential.
Say Grizzlies just opened
Couple
over
months
there last year.
And that actually borders on the neighborhood I live in, which is a little historic place.
Where are you? Down, are
On
you,
South State Street.
you down here? Or are you?
Yeah, so here,
Oh, well.
that jumped out at me,
Huh?
two in the, we're talking about the future,
Mhm.
but I think I've already mentioned that to you.
Which is, sorry.
How this, one that
I think I
is
got it.
blocked out
Is this on the
commercial,
screen?
a lot of that's currently already residential.
Here?
Here, I can, this area.
On the future land use map. So do you think that we should move that to be residential?
Yeah, and I understand your need for the transition.
Yeah, we're trying to
but-
create that like buffer zone, I guess. But
Yeah, some of this
understand-
I'd say is more or less employment, I mean, we have,
Yeah.
the ribbon jacket and the newspaper, I imagine those will continue to be.
Mhm.
Virtually everything else, well, those are the only ones to here. Every smaller lot is essentially a residential one.
So it's kind of a mix right now.
They're served by, utilities, so I imagine
Yeah.
that this is actually somewhat ideal for.
Yeah. So it is kind of already a buffer zone where it is like some businesses that are low impact with
Yeah.
residential.
Okay, so you're,
Mm,
I almost literally look across from the paper and it's quiet.
Yeah,
this is that piece right here that's jutting up. You can't see my mouse up there though.
yeah.
So that's that piece that's. So you're talking, this is all residential down here. Oh, I see. So like Dartford.
Yeah, so that little triangle right there is kind of right up to the edge of that corner of that industrial
Yeah,
parcel.
so this is all industrial and then across the street. And I mean, obviously that's where it. So you're trying to prevent this, you're asking about this triangle piece?
Yeah, well, realistically speaking, like there just needs to be some thought put forward as to, so if the residential was to continue expanding west of that triangular parcel, it's then there's gonna be homes, and I can see now, they're pretty low density homes, but they are kind of like abutting the industrial area, which is a concern, and I guess just like trying to think about what makes the most sense, like typically what you would see if there is like an industrial and a residential is that there would be a street of commercial or businesses that would kind of serve as a buffer zone between the two. As far as compatibility goes, you always wanna kind of do steps instead of like heavy industrial to extremely low density residential. So, I mean, we might not be able to have an answer right now, and it might be a scenario where when it comes up, it needs to be addressed. But I want to make sure that if there is strong thoughts or if there's feelings about where this should go, our thought is, if these uses were to change, they should change to be, light industrial or business, like office uses, to allow for these residential to potentially continue expanding.
Morgan, what are you showing it as right now?
Carol, sorry. No, you're fine. So right now we have, this is a future land use map.
Absolutely, yes.
So we have this whole area as employments, and then this area looks like it will end up becoming residential. And then we kind of have the opportunity where this could be a little bit higher density, just because it's, yeah, because it's near, more busy uses. So yeah, put it up there. So that's where we have it as right now.
So high-intensity residence is what you
Yeah,
predict.
so not that, I wouldn't say predicted, but we're allowing for the
Sure.
possibility that if there's offices and stuff next door, that it would maybe be more appropriate if there was, smaller apartment buildings or what have you in that area, because it's already kind of high traffic uses. But welcome your thoughts on the matter, and yeah, I wanted to discuss if that feels appropriate
I
at all.
mentioned it's been a few years, but there was a developer that had been looking at that triangle, weirdly enough, and had asked questions about what our plans were for that, so this would be a better answer for them than what I had at the time, which I think was future land use of agricultural.
Yeah.
Yeah, indefinitely, so.
Yeah, and this would also, like, if a developer was to, come in and say, okay, like, what kind of apartments, could I do here? We have pretty strict standards for height to say remain in the existing height of most of the because most of your multifamily is not more than like 2 stories.
Yeah.
Side by sides, so keeping with the character of the community. And then if they wanted to take it further than that, then they would have to kind of go through a development agreement process where there's more control that the city has to say, okay, if you wanted to do more, this is what we would ask for it to remain appropriate.
So you need an answer from us on this area?
I mean, I don't necessarily need an answer from it, but I don't want anyone to be like, what the heck? Yeah, like, what does that mean? I just want to make sure that the points of potential change are discussed, because I don't want anyone to feel, caught off guard. And also, want to minimize amendments as much as possible. Staff, that's a huge staff burden on Plan Commission. So,
Sure.
Obviously it happens. We can't predict the future. All we can do is kind of say, okay, like, realistically, like the Walmart might attract other commercial uses. Like the downtown is historic and is going to probably remain almost as is in some ways, like it's going to be largely single family residential and then just kind of tweak from there. But yeah, that's kind of what I've got. Are there any questions about the actual process, how this applies to development plans? I'm sure you guys have looked at you guys have used the current future land use map, and I don't know if there's thoughts on how this feels compared to the other one, the old one. This makes more sense.
I don't feel like I have enough experience in this one at all, so.
I just wanted to say to Morgan's point before, she was talking about being a burden on staff and night vision, but the closer you can get to what you think the actual will be and what's best for the community, it's the best for the developers as well.
Yeah.
Because not saying that you can't change it, because obviously sometimes that's the best option. But when you do that, it's another step in the development process for the developer, because by state statute, what we end up doing has to match the comp plan.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't, you have to change the comp plan before you can do what you want to do. So getting this as close to what you feel is absolutely the best potential option for the community is the goal here. So just back to her point that it's a strain for everybody. It is changeable, should be changed if necessary, but if you can get it to where it's rare, that's what we're hoping for.
I just had a quick question reading through. So this vision statement, this is a new one that you put together?
Yeah, I was kind of working off of some of the community engagement that we had received, and I hadn't heard anything as far as the strategic plan.
So that was my question was, if you had any insight to that, because
I haven't seen it.
We haven't either.
And so I
We don't
would
have
love-
anything from the
I would
strategic.
love to, is it done?
So,
Sorry, I don't know why I asked it like that.
So, I've been told that we should have a draft in the next couple of weeks. As far as the actual mission statement, motto,
Yeah,
I will look and see if we have verbiage or if we're still.
Yeah,
it would be nice if they had something, I would like to see them tied together. I
Yes.
don't want them to be complete unrecognizable, they're not relatable.
yes.
So if it's something, I mean, Morgan, in your
Yeah, we
hands,
can
is 2 weeks doable to have something like that?
Yeah,
Or is it
so
doable?
as far as the timeline goes, sorry, let me, as far as the timeline goes, basically, and just to zoom out on this process. So our intention is to get recommendation for approval in May for this plan, which also includes having a 30-day notice for the public hearing draft of the plan, so that it can be a public hearing. So that would put April 26th is 30 days before the May 26th. Is that your May meeting? That's my estimation, just based on.
We're always the last Tuesday of the month, right?
So 28th? April 28th is the Tuesday.
Yeah, but for
May
May.
Yeah,
May 26th.
May 26th, okay.
So if you need
Sorry.
it in the paper for 30 days?
Yeah, and I'll get you all the like public
So
hearing.
I'd be aiming for probably the
verbiage.
24th of April to get that into the.
So it'd have to be to the paper by
Because what's our new deadline, Friday?
Yeah,
Friday at noon, is that the 26th? 7, 14, 21, 22, 29, 30. Yes, so it would have to be it would have to be in on the 23rd, wouldn't it? So we'd have to have it to them by the 17th? Or am I looking at that
April
wrong?
17th. Well,
Somebody else counted too. I got a really little screen.
I just heard a lot of numbers, so.
Yeah, so what's your deadline, you're talking about your deadline for publishing?
Yeah, so the paper publishes on Thursday,
Okay.
but we have to have it to them the Friday before that.
On Thursday, previous Friday,
Yeah.
is there a time? Or they just by end of day?
Noon.
By noon, oh, sorry, I thought you said no.
Oh,
By
sorry. Sorry.
Previous Friday by noon is the deadline, so
Yeah.
it will have to pick the Thursday that best equates to at least 30 days before May 26th, and then it would be the Friday before that would be our deadline for publishing, which means our deadline for edits, I need time to make sure I can incorporate any edits.
So April 17th would have to be a deadline.
April 17th would have to be our final deadline for public hearing,
Notice for the paper to be 30 days,
okay.
right?
Well, technically, it just has to be done by the time it's in the paper.
Okay, so I would say that we're March 24th right now. I think that I think if you gave me a week or two leeway time for any final comments to be incorporated, that would be ideal. Obviously, the sooner the better, so could we say May? I'm not looking at a calendar right now, so I don't know what days of the week certain thing is. But what's the Monday that's like the last week of May?
Well, it's the 25th, which is Memorial Day.
Oh, Tuesday?
So that Tuesday, that last Tuesday for our meeting is May 26th.
Oh, okay. Wait. Oh,
Are you
sorry.
looking in April?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking April. April?
So the last
I'll
Monday
quit
in April is the 27th.
Okay. April 17th. What's 2 weeks before April 17th?
2 weeks before April 17th is the 3rd of April.
That's really soon.
So like next
That's
Friday.
Next Friday.
That's next Friday. What's 1 week before?
The 10th.
The 10th. Think, I'd rather give you guys more time, and I know that I could do it in a week as long as it was, if you, I know you guys are busy and have elections and stuff coming up, and I think if I can get any final edits, comments, feedback by that April 10th deadline, then we can get the final draft for April 17th. Does that feel doable on your timeline?
It's gonna have to.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if I don't hear from somebody who, or if there's, yeah, then that's just the hard deadline.
Okay,
Tim and I will definitely go through it. If plan commissioners have any thoughts, concerns, things that they saw that just didn't make sense, whatever, please let us know as soon as possible, certainly a couple of days before that, so that we can get it marked up and sent back over to Morgan.
yeah. You know, like, of course, there's like the possibility that we get some additional feedback during the public hearing, but I'd like to like keep that as minimal as possible, so that there's a few changes as possible from that public hearing draft. Ideally, the public hearing draft is what gets adopted. If it's not exactly, like, we can make it work, but, want to keep it as close as possible, if that makes sense to everyone else. Hearing no complaints, I'm gonna put that in my notes. April 10th.
And as staff, I'll say I appreciate all the time that's gone into this. There was a lot of detail work that, was quite evident that, when I looked at some of these, like I said, the one that had a developer call, I'm like, wow, I don't know how they would have guessed that, and that's a great catch. So, quite a few of those.
Yeah, well, we did have that meeting with, to talk about the land use and stuff before we went in, but yeah, we tried our best to be as thoughtful as possible, and, we'll try to continue taking this across the finish line and hopefully like have something really usable for you all.
So when you want us, I just want to be clear, when we're looking for details and scouring this thing,
Yeah.
which one are we,
So here I'll kind of.
where would you like us to focus
The
on?
stuff that's in the land use and implementation chapter, so that's the Word draft, that's gonna be incorporated into this
Okay,
final InDesign document,
okay,
once I get any final feedback on it. Cause
okay,
it's a lot easier to edit it once it's a Word doc than
Sure.
when it's an InDesign doc, so
Okay.
ideally, any final feedback on this chapter.
okay,
But if you have comments, this is all content you've already seen at the last two plan commission meetings. So none of it should feel new to you. That doesn't mean that you don't notice something you didn't notice before that happens. But ideally, this should only have minor edits and revisions left. This one, if there's actual kind of like thoughts on components, it's the first time you're seeing it, so, more thoughtful for the Word drafts for implementation and land use. And I didn't really touch on the implementation chapter that much. That one is pretty boilerplate, like community, like it's pretty just standard about, and then the processes and, incorporating, like implementing the guidelines that are set forth in the comprehensive plan, so I didn't feel like it was worth our time to touch on it too much, but if people do have questions about it. And then, yeah, I would like to incorporate anything I can from that strategic plan. If that is just the vision statement, that's okay. I'm sure our vision statements are I'm sure they're probably already relatively aligned, just because I feel like that would just kind of be natural for understanding the community and where it's at. But yeah, I will incorporate that into the final plan if we can get it in time, which might be possible, at least for the vision statement.
I can email forward and
Okay,
see where we're at.
great. Well, that's all I have for you all today. Thanks for,
I'd like to just make a comment that what I see here, because I think I've gone through a couple different comprehensive plans, it's very detailed with
Yeah.
data and well presented.
thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way.
I was just gonna make a note, I know that we're like, obviously we might make tweaks to our mission statement or our slogan or whatever it is. You don't have any timeline from her when they're presenting next? Like, would it be at the next meeting by chance or no?
So I just got an email that, she figured it would be about 10 days before she got me a draft.
Okay,
So, but she has to put in everything that staff's been working on and all that good stuff. So she's been working along. But I am not 100% sure of what she means by that, if that's a draft for review or
okay,
where we're at. But I'm hopeful that that vision stays in there, but I will email her
okay.
and ask her to just send me that piece if she can.
Well, my only concern is it's great, I mean, if we're gonna tweak something,
Yeah, to make
once
a match.
council sees, but I'm saying like if council had more input or,
Mhm.
nonetheless, whatever. I just wanted to align, but I wanna, it's not in stone what she sends us, so,
Absolutely.
okay. All right, any other comments, questions from us, questions from Morgan? April 10th for our deadline to them. Anything else?
Nothing for me, sorry to give you a deadline in the middle of tax season.
That just added to the plate. Okay, then I will move on to old business. Does anybody have anything for old business? And then new business, anything for new business? If not, our next meeting is scheduled for, we're looking at April 28th. As long as nobody has any issues with that. I'll move on to number 9.
Make motion to adjourn? So moved.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and meeting adjourned at 6:44.